I did want to just plug your book. It's Turn It Up, My Time Making Hit Records in the Glory Days of Rock Music.
Yeah, it's different, the book. It's different from your average rock and roll book. It's a little bit educational. It's informative, and people are. I think they're pretty amazed that I can actually write. I wrote it all myself. Great, good reviews, and everybody who's talked to me, who's read the book, has been very enthusiastic.
How were you disciplined on that? Did you just wake up and kind of write for a few hours every day, or what?
No, I didn't do it at all like the pros. Sometimes I wouldn't write for a month. This thing took 3 or 4 years, and I never worked hard at it. I'd get a thought, or I'd have a memory, and I'd go to my computer, and I'd write a piece. And then eventually I started to put all the pieces in chronological order and by category or by topic. And I never really wrote for more than possibly 20 or 30 minutes at a time. And there was no discipline whatsoever. And then toward the end, it was difficult. And I had to do the book proposal, and it was long, and I got really lucky. I got an agent and a publisher kind of very quickly. I didn't think anybody'd do it. I thought, and I wasn't going to self-publish, so it would have just gone into my desk drawer, I guess.
And you also talk about all the bands, right?
Yeah. It's kind of autobiographical memoir, but not too much. And it has chapters on the people that I had encounters with, of all the bands, the big bands that I worked with, and the people, individuals like, Springsteen and Belushi, and people that people want to know about. Brief chapters about one-on-one meetings or encounters or whatever. And it's got a lot of production values and how to record, how we recorded, how we found bands, how we developed bands, how we promoted bands. It's really about the record industry in the 70s and 80s and how I couldn't stay out of it. There's Motley Crue chapter, Poison chapter, Ted Nugent chapter, Molly Hatchet chapter, Cheap Trick chapter, Twisted Sister chapter. They're all in there, good or bad.
And where can people order it?
On Amazon.
Okay.
If you just, I know there's one way of doing it is to type in my name and Turn It Up, and there it is.
Honestly, I already feel like I know the answer, and I just thought I'd get it out there because it seems to keep going on. But maybe about a month or so ago, there was some article that came out on some site. I didn't even recognize the site, but I thought, wow, they're just full out lying about what they're saying. And they had claimed that, I think it was like one of the Wrecking Crew, the female bass player that was part of that Wrecking Crew that did all those records way back. They said that she was the one who laid down all the bass tracks on the Motley Crue records. And then...
it's pretty amazing.
Have you ever heard of a guy named Greg Leon?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was kind of big in L.A. and kind of got close to making it. He had an early band with Tommy Lee called Sweet 19. And then he was also supposedly like that other guy that was kind of involved in Motley Crue right as Mick came in, and then I think they pushed him out. But even in the movie, they have another guy there, and I think it's supposed to be Greg Leon. Now, in this interview, he claims that he was involved in the initial forming of Motley Crue, but he decided that he didn't want to be a part of it. But then he comes out and says, okay, this is a quote from him, says, Tommy invited me to the studio while recording Theater of Pain, and when I got there, it wasn't Nikki playing bass. I won't mention the guy's name who actually played bass, but it wasn't Nikki. I remember asking the guy, hey, what are you doing here? And he was like, oh, I'm playing bass on the Motley Crue record. And it shocked me, but the producer instigated that as Nikki wasn't up to snuff. So
I don't know. This is pretty amazing stuff for me. Complete fiction. I mean, really, I was there for every note, and so was Nikki. He's the one, as I heard it, he said to Bob Rock, I don't even know if I played the bass, because he was, I guess, so he thought he was so screwed up or too high or something. He had said somebody came in and replaced all my bass parts. And then Bob Rock told it to somebody else. And, I don't know. But the whole thing is ridiculous, just flat out ridiculous. I think in 52 albums, I may have hired 4 session players. 2 were guitarists. 1 was a harmonica player, and 1 was a cellist. And then, of course, I had a keyboard guy come in a lot. But this is absurd. I did not ever substitute anyone for any single person in any band that I worked with. After I went home at midnight, I don't think anybody came in at 1 a.m. and they pulled the tapes out of it. I would have heard the difference immediately. So that's just silly. And it's amazing to me that anybody would actually allege that this happened.
I've interviewed Beau Hill a ton of times as well, and he did. He would bring in like guitar players because it was such a competitive field in the 80s on his Twisted Sister record. It's not those guys playing on that record. It's a different guy. It's a session guy. And then Warrant, all those Warrant records that were huge,
yeah.
they had a session guy that played on those because the 2 guitar players he didn't feel confident in.
I'm shocked because there are session players who play on maybe in the Wrecking Crew. We knew about that. There are guys at Muscle Shoals, but a rock and roll band making a record and bringing in a session guy to substitute for one of the actual members of the band. Maybe I'm naive. I never heard of that. I just never heard of that. It's like, gee, we didn't think Mick Mars was good enough, so we hired another guy and didn't credit him. And said it was Mick Mars. That's just wow.
And of course, we've talked about this on some of our other interviews. Our Shout at the Devil interview, where Nikki had the cast on, so it was hard doing those bass tracks. I know you've always said that he wasn't so great of a bass player initially, but he became really good through even your time. So I assume even by the time Girls, 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 you guys were recording that, he was playing really well, right?
He was fine. They were all good.
Just to be clear on Theater of Pain, nobody ever would have just been in there like, say, Nikki didn't show up today and you just needed somebody playing bass, but you weren't recording.
Not a chance.
Okay.
It would have taken hours for him to learn the song, and I didn't even know any session bass players.
And Nikki wrote most of the songs, too, or at least participated in all the songwriting.
He was the band. He was the mainstay of Motley Crue, and I'm amazed to hear you tell me, these stories or these things that people said on this subject. Really. It's really amazing.
It's crazy. I saw, and then Nikki, I think, was responding to this new interview where he's like, it's bullshit. I think he's still mad at Mick and said it's all Mick's fault for bringing it up in the first place, that he wasn't playing on tour. I'm sure you've heard that by now. That I don't know. I can't say anything about that. Anything is possible live. But that's not my department. Just recording. Thank you. Yeah, I just thought it was a very strange thing that somebody would come out and then actually say that they talked to you as well.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago, but I think I would remember that.